Okay, I'm going to try this one more time. I got a stonking headache, and it's been a while since I've done a video. Been a couple of weeks now, but I really wanted to get this video done, and of course, it's not really flowing. Anyway, maybe I'll get into the flow while I'm doing this. Maybe I won't. Maybe it'll just be all over the place. I guess that is my flow though. But anyway, okay. Sorry for all the preamble there was a bit waffly. I want to talk about chakra colors, okay? And I've got the chakra colors set up, the different chakra points here. I've managed to pick out a diagram that has, or an image that has um, the cross in it, the cross of Christ. So we can see this heart chakra, okay? Um, because the heart is the central balance point for everything, yeah, in your, as you are an entity, right? That is your central balance point. And you can do this, put your arms out here, there's one arm, here's the other arm, put your arms out, and in the center of these two lines is the heart. Okay, that's why the heart's so important. That's why Jesus is closely associated with the heart. Okay, we got some other stuff going on here. I mean, it's an interesting image, this, but I don't really want to get into that. You know, the Ankh and what the Ankh means, and the you know, about the Vesica Pisces and all that stuff. We'll leave that for now. I just want to really touch on what I'm really trying to get to is this green heart chakra. Why is this green? And can we reconcile that with the man-made illusions in the world? Yeah, the man-made fiction, you know, the manifestation of man's ideas, okay, which happen to be portrayed in that with that green hue. I would call it another green hue. You know, in certain films, I'm thinking Matrix, thinking Wizard of Oz, yeah, the Emerald City, um, and that green color. You know, I mean, that is not what you would call a pure, true to the heart representation of something that was good. You know, the Matrix, is that a good thing? I don't think so. Is the Emerald City a good thing? Doesn't really come across as a good thing, does it? I'm thinking kryptonite here. Is kryptonite a good thing for Superman? We've got the colors of Superman here and here. We've got the kryptonite right in the middle, right at the heart of Superman. Does that make any sense? Well, let's try and make sense of it now. And I'm gonna, well, let's start by let's backtrack a little bit and say, well, why have we got this green color at the heart? Okay. So the head is where we do our thinking, right? This is where we generate fictional ideas. Okay. And why is the head the blue color? Okay, well, the head happens to be up in the air now, and what color is the sky? It's blue. Okay, and you know, if you know uh, your symbolism and all this stuff, you'll know that the water is also the fiction. This is why the water, the blue color of water, is, you know, reflected in the blue color of the sky as well, vice versa. You'll know that this color is very linked to the spirit, yeah, because it's all to do with the fiction, yeah, the place that the reflection in the mirror, yeah. And we also get up here, we've got the blue moon. Okay, we've got the moon. There's a reason why there's seas on the moon, yeah. It's to tell you that the moon is to do with the fiction. There's a reason why the moon affects the tides. It's to tell you that the moon is to do with the waters, to do with the fiction. Okay, so this is where the fiction is generated. This is where we have our ideas. Okay, and down here, I mean, have you ever heard of a gut reaction to something? You know, a gut reaction is a basic instinctual reaction to something, yeah. Um, and so um, this would be like fight or flight. Okay. Um, maybe I'll talk about that here in a minute with Marty if I remember, but in Back to the Future. But this is to do with the physical body's um, response to certain situations. Yeah. So this represents the physical body. So it's representing the physical world. Yeah, and that is represented with the sun in the sky. This is why this is this color. Okay, and so let's do some Bob Ross stuff now. Let's take our fictional idea of blue. Okay, and then let's manifest that with our hands. We'll make the thing. So we've got the mark of the beast, we've got the forehead and the mark on the hand. So those two things are generating this color, yeah? If we mix, like I said, let's do the Bob Ross thing here. Let's mix blue and let's mix yellow and we get green, okay? And we've got happy trees. And that is probably a pretty good segue into what I'm going to explain next, okay? So we've established that we generate you know, we've established that we can generate our own fictional ideas, manifest our own fictional ideas. This is what this is. This is basically fictional because anytime man manifests something, the problem is when man manifests something, is it's never true to nature. Okay, it's never true to correct balance. Okay, so that thing stays. I don't know. It stays fictional. It's fake. It's not real. It's man-made. Yeah. So that thing essentially is still, even though it's manifested into the real world, it's still a fiction, right? So this is where it can get a little confusing because sometimes, even in my videos, I will refer to like man-made fictions, and then I'll talk about fiction, and it gets kind of confusing. What's what? And that's where you need like the context of what I'm talking about to be able to understand that. But this is the pure fiction, and I hope I don't do this during the video and kind of switch these around. But this is the pure fiction. This is the spirit, and then what we have here is we have the manifestation, the physical manifestation of that idea here. Yeah, this is balance with the physical world. Okay, so these two things have come together. Bloody hell, Dan, you are waffling. So let's go back to old Bob Ross with the happy trees, right? Because there's something interesting. This is probably where these colors come from nature. So let's explain what happens in nature, because it's interesting that God has a set of organisms out there that show us what true balance looks like. Okay, so if you ever look at the natural colors of leaves, yeah, grass and all that stuff, those natural colors of green are very pleasant, very satisfying, aren't they? They they look natural, they are natural, you know. So what God's done is He's put plants out there to show us that, you know, if you take water, if you take the fiction, and you take the sun, you take sunlight, you mix those two together, you use both of them, the plant generates food, yeah? Generates this foliage, which is perfectly balanced. Why is it perfectly balanced? That's a good question, Dan. Why is it perfectly balanced? Well, you know, I don't see too many plants out there making things, yeah? They're not out there, you know, in the out in the garage inventing things, are they? You know, they don't use technology. They pretty much, for the most part, they just grow, and that's about it, isn't it? Okay. They don't have this ability here. They don't have the ability that we have to generate the fictional idea, right? They are, as far as I'm aware, They don't have that ability, which means that what they're doing is in perfect balance all the time. Okay. When we move over to animals, when we move over to man especially, but I think other animals have the capability of doing some thinking and generating the fiction. But man has this other little thing called hands, which enable him to manifest those things. Okay. But animals are different to plants. Yeah, we have that ability. I'm thinking of my dog now. My dog, I know my dog dreams. I've watched him, doing the old paw twitching and whimpering and all that stuff while he's having a little dream. So I know it's perfectly capable. He's perfectly capable of generating some kind of fiction in his head. The only difference is he's got paws instead of hands, and so he's unable to really act on those ideas that he's having. Okay. Which of course gets people into a whole bunch of trouble, because of course it's now where do we draw the line at? I don't even want to go into it really, but this is why people have a huge problem with eating animals, especially people that go down a spiritual road. I don't really want to go into it, but if you take your cues from nature, you know what the right thing to do is. Let's leave it at that. But so we have this difference between the happy trees out there that are always balanced, and man. And I'm going to explain the difference now, because it comes down to color hue. Okay, we know that when a tree is ill, or when a plant is when a tree is ill, when a plant's sick, yeah, you often notice that the leaves will turn usually a yellow color. Yeah, it usually turns a slightly yellow color, and that's telling you that plant's unhealthy. Okay, so that thing's out of balance for some reason, probably something a human did to it. And so that can tell us, that we've got to look at these color changes for ourselves as well. Of when something's not quite right, the green color doesn't look right. And I think you'll agree that if you go watch The Matrix, the green color's not quite right. It's not a natural green color. It's an off kind of, with a luminescence type, man-made-esque type hue to it. I think of like toxic waste, that color, and it's usually some kind of like radioactive green color. And when we're sick, we also do the same thing. If you're coughing up phlegm, that's usually it's not a pleasant green color. Not that it probably would be a pleasant, but do you follow what I'm saying? It's not a pleasant green. It's not. It doesn't look right. Yeah. And neither do those colors that are used in films to portray this sort of manifest fiction. So we get onto the kryptonite, right? And we get onto the Emerald City, and you're thinking, well, emeralds are, Dan, emerald's a natural thing. Kryptonite's a crystal. It looks kind of natural. It looks very natural, and I would refer you back to this idea of the fiction again, and the moon, and the diamond, the Diana moon, yeah, the diamond being a crystal, and that clear crystal representing the moon. So this idea of a green crystal that's sort of edging more towards the fiction now, because of the reference to the diamond. I think we can kind of explain that away a little bit, and that's not to be confused with things like that can also be like emerald could also be used, that could also be used in a good sense as well. Just like the heart chakra here being green, this is perfect balance. Okay, what we're trying to make the distinction between the man-made green colors that's not natural and the pure natural happy tree green. There's a definite difference there, and what that difference is when you go one way or the other way. If you follow my cursor here, when you're moving away from the center green and you move more into the fiction, you're going to get this off color. When you move more into the physical, when you're controlled by the physical realm, you're going to get this off color here. And so we can reconcile those two things, the difference between those green colors and what that means. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting. I don't know if I really want to go too much deeper into it. I mean, think like I want to go through just a couple of colors that are associated with feelings in the body. Feeling blue. Often when you're feeling blue, you are thinking about stuff a lot. You're maybe overanalyzing something and maybe in your head causing more problems than there really are. So you end up getting depressed. What I want to say about the green, green with envy, that one pops up a lot, doesn't it? And again, the hue of the green with envy is the man-made green. Yeah, it's not being green with envy has got nothing to do with perfect pure heart chakra balance. Being green with envy is somewhere on these outer limits here. Again, another hue. It's the manifest man-made fiction. Okay. The yellow belly. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting the way some of this stuff's reflected in because that color green there coming out of the throat is usually kind of, well, it can be yellow as well, but it's usually a bluey green color. And again, with the stomach, I don't know if you've ever thrown up when you've got an empty stomach, but that bile color is usually a yellowy color. Sort of around here somewhere. This sort of funny color here. And so it's interesting the way some of these colors are within the body as well. What do I want to say about the yellow? I'll go to Marty now with Back to the Future being called a yellow belly, a chicken. That whole thing. If you notice that scene when he usually ends up punching Biff and then running, and he gets on the skateboard and gets away from Biff, right? That is fight because he's cornered, and then flight. That is telling you that Marty is, acting very much in alignment with the physical. Okay, what he's failed to do is he's failed to use, and I mean, there's obviously situations where that is necessary, but a lot of the time, and it's shown later on in the film, that gets him into trouble. Yeah, solely relying on this reaction, just acting on basic instinct, gets him into trouble later on in the film. Of course it all works out nice in the end, but the alternate reality we're shown is him being in a car accident, right? And so what we've got to learn from that is that we've got to balance, this has got to be common sense here, and you've got to take into account your gut reaction, and then you've got to use some logic here. Yeah, Mr. Spock, isn't Mr. Spock wearing blue, and isn't Kirk wearing the yellow? And we've got to come somewhere in the middle here and find that balance. That's really what we've got to do, which is what Marty doesn't do in the film. You know, we see the sort of polar opposites. What more do I want to add to this? I just want to talk about planetary alignment just for 1 second. So we've got the moon up here, the blue moon, and we have the Earth in the center, and then we have the sun, right? So when these three things are lined up perfectly, what we end up with is the blood moon, yeah? This is the perfectly grounded man, the root chakra. This is the perfectly grounded man. The blood moon is the shadow cast over the moon, yeah? So the control of the earth, man, over the moon, yeah? Now there's flesh over the skull, okay? And when there's flesh over the skull and you're an independent man, yeah, you end up becoming the king again, right? Which means that you have taken this thing, you've taken the moon, it's become balanced, and because this thing is now balanced, this is also the moon here, because the moon, the fiction, is now balanced, okay, we can now combine those two colours as well. Back to Bob Ross, we'll combine those two colours, and we're going to get the purple crown, the crown chakra. Now we've become the independent man, the solo man, yeah? We've become the king. We've become sovereign. And I think that's really where I want to leave the video. One thing to touch on about getting this balance right, and with the things going on in the world now, I actually want to mention this. To be king, yeah, to be a sovereign, is to be independent from the system, to be independent from the man-made fiction, yeah. And so there's a problem with, I don't know how many truthers do this, but you've got a slight problem, especially if you're somebody new listening to this and are just sort of getting into this sort of groove of what reality is all about. You've got a slight problem that if you went and voted, yeah, in this last election, let's forget, you know, every time they do a new election, right, that is, you know, reconfirming people's approval of the system, yeah. So you don't have to think about this going back years and years and years. But if you went and voted at the last election, right, and if you put on the vote, you actually voted for somebody you actually put some kind of vote of confidence in, i.e., you voted for somebody that was on the ballot, right? You've got a slight problem, and that the problem is you are not independent if you did that, yeah, and that lasts until the next election. So okay, you may have gone and done it, and you may have said, well, you know what, I shouldn't have done that. But that lasts until the next election, or it lasts until you take that vote back, until you revoke that vote. So here's the thing: you can't be independent, you can't be a king, you can't be a sovereign if you voted in a government to do a job, right? And I'll tell you why. Because some people will argue with me on this, and the argument would be, well, that is completely fictional, that system, yeah, and so it's not supposed to actually affect somebody that's a sovereign. And I can still go, you know, somebody would say I can still go and vote for it because it's not actually dealing with the man. Well, the problem we've got with the current state of affairs with the government is they are breaking natural law in many ways. And in fact, it's very difficult in this world that we've created for a government to not break natural law rules when they engage with the legal side of reality, yeah, when they engage us in the legal side of reality. And so the problem you've got at this point is if you go and vote for that thing that is breaking natural law, and you put your consciousness into that thing, yeah, you are not free. Um, you are not, number one, you're not free from that control because you voted for it, and number two, you're not free from the wrongdoings of that thing either. Yeah, everything that thing is doing wrong, it's because people went out and voted for it, and there's no excuse for it. I know pretty much everybody in my family votes, apart from my kids. And I don't know what you do about it. I don't vote, but everybody else seems to vote. It is not. You cannot be clean if you vote for something that is dirty. If you put your consciousness in something that's dirty, and I want to leave it at that. Okay, that's a good place to leave the video. Maybe if people want to hear more about that idea, maybe hit me up in the comments or something, ask me to do a video on it. But it's very interesting that a rooted man, yeah, the rooted man becomes king, yeah, a well-grounded man, and you can't be, this blood has to be flowing over your bones, the flesh has to be there for you to be a living man, and not be in this dead fiction that's around the edges of the perfect green. Yeah, if you're in the dead fiction, in the man-made world, in the illusion, you're not living, and it's that simple. Freedom. um, I think I've got to leave it there. I don't really want to get into freedom in relation to in terms of relation with with nature now. Let's just leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything, but I think I've pretty much covered it all. Yeah, I'll catch you on the next one, I guess. I know I promised in the last one, I didn't really promise, but I did say I wanted to do a video on what the last set of numbers I think that's in the $1 bill, and I will get to that again with the green. I will get to that video here shortly, hopefully. Stay tuned, but that may be a multiple part installment on that as well. So anyway, I guess I'll catch you later. All the best, and God bless. All right, bye.